It
Hi,
says.
Martin. Hi, Martin. How you doing? You okay? Um,
Yes, thanks.
Martin, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself? I know Martin from, we were colleagues together in Bristol. Martin had the very dubious job of trying to organise me on occasions as we sort of co-ran Kingswood Street Pastors together. Martin, you want to say a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. I come from Sussex originally, and I'll try and keep this short. Tell you my whole life story, but yeah, I wasn't a Christian properly until I got to the grand old age of 51, and then I saw the light, as it were. Don't want to use too much jargon, but and it's been a journey ever since, of discovery, of hearing things from God and acting on them. So um, currently, I have a mixture of jobs. I do handyman stuff, caretaking at a local school in the afternoons, and bit of street pastor coordinator work. So yeah, a mixture.
Brilliant. I remember the first time, can I just say, I remember the first time or second time you went out with Street Pastors, when you were still fairly new, that a guy met Martin's eye and shouted, "Oi, Street Pastors! Street Pastor, what about dinosaurs?" And that was a little bit of a baptism of fire, but for Martin, with like a
Yes, indeed.
quite a good, good question actually, a good question to ask people. But I was like, asked you a question. What do you reckon? We've been looking at a little bit of a series where we've been thinking about words, works, and wonders as three ways of which we can share our faith. And we've been chatting to different people who maybe have a specialism or a passion about one of those three. But in this last section, we were just really talking about just trying to make it work in what I call normal everyday life, not the sort of, sort of not. Most of us would say we're not experts. We're just trying to do what we can. Do you have any thoughts on words, works, and wonders as a bit of a concept to hang mission, evangelism, outreach on?
Yeah, I for several years, from being a Christian, I've been thinking, well, I should be doing more. I should be doing evangelism. How should I do that? And what I've read, both in the Bible and by people, scholars and theologians, and lots of very wise people, is that everything we do is possible evangelism. Everything, the way we live our lives, they should be different enough from people that don't believe for them to see the difference.
Yeah.
And that can be things like being a little bit more kind, caring, listening, which street pastors, has got as their strapline: caring, helping, listening. And that's helped me a great deal to understand that as a Christian, if we do some of that, we listen to people when they've got problems instead of going, "Oh, I've got to just dash off." We're doing evangelism. We're doing works, if you like, because we're caring for somebody, caring enough to invest some time in them. And the other thing that has really impacted me is my words. I'm probably a little bit careless with my words. I will say things as a joke and then think afterwards, oh, perhaps that isn't such a good thing to say. It seemed funny at the time, but maybe that's got a bigger impact, because I know that I've been on the other end of words that people have said as a joke that have hurt.
Mm.
And I try, but I tend to be a person that thinks out loud. So I will start, somebody will mention something and I'll start talking about it to try and formulate what I believe about it. And that can sometimes come out badly. And somebody can say, "Oh, you don't believe that, do you?" And I go, "No, thinking about it, I just said that as a way of testing the water and it's not right."
Yeah.
So I think I have to be a lot more careful about what I say, because it's got an impact. it can go a long way without you knowing. And I think, yeah, we all have responsibility to think about our words and what we do as actions. I sometimes get frustrated, I guess, by Christians living their life as if they weren't Christians. They're Christians, but they talk about, oh yeah, we've had half a bottle of gin tonight. Ho ho ho. Well, do you really think as a Christian you should be bragging? You know, I have a drink occasionally, and sometimes probably have a little bit more wine than I should do. But I don't go onto Facebook and go, I had a bottle of wine last night. Ho ho ho. Because I don't think it's anything to brag about. And I think that we have to really, at times, just go back and look at what our actions are, because, as it says in the Bible, we are ambassadors of the kingdom, and as ambassadors, you wouldn't expect the ambassador for a particular country to come to this country and. No, I'm just thinking that I'm going down the line of where they have done it, and we've been appalled by people taking diplomatic immunity, and they shouldn't have done what they did. They shouldn't have been drinking and driving, or doing this, or parking illegally, whatever it is, just because they got immunity. And we shouldn't, as ambassadors of Christ, be doing things and say, "Yeah, but I'm saved, so it's all right."
I think that's what sometimes is called cheap grace, isn't it? But I think that idea of, it doesn't really matter what I do because I'm saved anyway. But I also think really interesting picking up on that thing about being an ambassador is a good way of thinking. Is actually everything I do can reflect on God, or can actually, Jesus is it says in that same verse, he's making his appeal through us. That idea that actually Jesus is seen in us, that treasure in jars of clay, that he that's in us is greater than he that's in the world. The idea of Christ in us, the hope of glory. That idea about our life and our words reflecting who Jesus is. And I was also thinking about the other thing you said about the words thing as well. James talks a lot about words in that epistle, and it also says, if anyone lacks wisdom, they are to ask God, who gives generously. And sometimes just that moment thing, actually, I'm going to be wise with what I say. And I'm going to try and be, not just be the same as everybody else or go along with the crowd, but actually, how can I use my words well? How can I live my life in a way that reflects God well? Just thinking about who we are and what we do, and think, actually, I'm an ambassador. And I love that point you said at the beginning, that actually our whole life is missional, or can be missional. God can use it all for his honor and his glory, and actually saying, I'm going to do all I can to live for Jesus. Yeah, we'll get it wrong. Yeah, we'll mess up. Yeah, none of us are perfect. Yeah, sometimes we do. So, well, I say silly things on Facebook sometimes, but it's or whatever it is. We all get it wrong. But actually, it's that intention to say, I'm going to try and follow Jesus in everything.
One of the things that I went through in a thought process and prayer with the Holy Spirit was, I was frightened that that what I said wouldn't be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of prayed through that and went through that whole process. And I realized that, yes, once you've said something, you can't take it back. But also, if I mess up, and I think, I'm not being funny, but I think you have been a great example to me of somebody that does things with good intentions, and you can go and say, well, I'm sorry, I'm sorry I did that. I didn't mean, and I think we can explain when we mess up. And I think as Christians, if we mess up and somebody says, oh, you shouldn't do that as a Christian, your reaction is, oh, how dare you? You got it wrong. If you go, oh no, as a Christian, no, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have said that. But you know what? We as Christians are just human beings. I'm learning. So thank you for pointing out that I got it wrong.
Yeah.
I think that's how we show that we're completely different, because non-Christians will defend the indefensible.
Yeah.
If they're caught in a lie, they'll probably still keep going.
Yeah.
Whereas we won't lie, but be accused of it, and then go, "Oh, I'm sorry if you think that I was lying. I wasn't. I might have got it wrong, but I wasn't lying."
Yeah.
And I think that's a big difference.
Yeah. And I think there's a humility of actually being honest with people. We live in a world where everyone's about saving face, and actually to just say, "I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I made a mistake." I think that whole, was it that blues song? Was it "I'm sorry" is the hardest word to say? It's actually quite profound, because sorry is something we try and teach our kids to say, but actually as adults we're sometimes really bad at it. And actually, I think one of the reasons why people struggle to say sorry to God and live lives of repentance is it's just saying sorry to anybody is something that's actually quite alien to our culture. Really, there's always there's always an excuse, there's always a something, and actually sometimes it's worth just saying, actually, no, I put my hand up, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done it, I made a bad decision, I was wrong, or whatever. Is actually it's actually a radically different way of living our lives, and actually the humility at the heart of it, I think, is it's something I haven't got sorted, but it's certainly something I want to get better at, really.
I think sorry is a word that people either use very glibly. Somebody says something, you go, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And you don't really mean it. I'm sorry.
Hands on my feet. Yeah.
Or they see it as a weakness. I went on a sales course once with my old computer company, which was American owned, and they sent some Americans over to teach us service managers how to sell.
Yeah.
And what they said was, if your customer's unhappy with you over something, you have to say this, you have to do this. And they wouldn't use sorry. It was, I see where you're coming from. You're right. I see where you're coming from. And you go, and I said to them, thing is, if we say that in Great Britain, you're right, immediately the customer says, so what are you going to do? You're going to give us some money back, blah, blah, blah. They're not listening to the rest of it. You've admitted liability. And to our culture is a little bit of, if you say sorry, you've admitted liability. And it's a weakness. So people avoid saying it, especially politicians. I mean, politicians will never say, "I'm sorry, I got that wrong." They'll say, "Yes, but in this context," about 10 paragraphs later, you go, "You didn't say sorry, did you?"
Yeah. Or if you said it, you didn't mean it. Yeah. I think that's true. Have you got you've also written a course on witnessing, haven't you, recently? Is that right? Yeah.
I'm
sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to say, do you have like 3 top tips for how to live it out, share your faith? Be a. I don't
okay, so I think
might be a bit harsh, but
but I think the first one is honesty. If you're going to, well, I think as a Christian you should be honest, and that means that when somebody says, "What did you do at the weekend?" you honestly say, "I did this on Saturday, and on Sunday I went to church." So you're honest that you do believe enough to go to church, and if they say, "Why do you believe in that?" Isn't that all been proved wrong? You go, "No, honestly, I believe." And then I think, so honesty, preparation. Peter says in one of his letters, doesn't he, be prepared to answer any queries. I'm completely paraphrasing. I'm messing it up.
I think it's 2 Peter 3:15, isn't it? I'm always prepared to give them a hope for.
And I think we should be.
But do so with gentleness and respect. Yeah.
Good. And I think that's really important, because if you're going to witness, you need to be honest, and you need to be prepared with how you're going to put across your point of view. The third one I would say is be kind. Because if somebody says, "Yeah, well, I think that's a lot of old rubbish," you go, "Okay, fair enough. You think it's rubbish, I don't." But I think just being prepared stops you being so frightened. Yeah. And I think a lot of Christians go to work and they don't mention church.
Yeah.
What did you do at the weekend? "Oh yeah, we did about with the kids and stuff, just the normal kind of stuff." It's still a game. Saturday, we always, we do this, we do that, we go shopping, mess about, give time over for the kids. But Sunday morning, we go to church.
Yeah. I think you're right, being open and honest about, your faith, being, and prepared actually to know actually what you believe, why you believe it, and actually is important, and kind. Well, I think there is a lot in that. Actually, I remember when I was at college, quite an interesting thing happened to me. I had a guy who was the chef at the pub we were drinking in, and he was a bit full of himself, really, and he started talking about faith stuff, and most of the guys there knew I was training to be a vicar, and they were sort of all looking at us, sort of smiling, not because they wanted me to win an argument, but they knew that I probably knew enough about my stuff to make him look silly, and they wanted to see him, slightly humiliated, having his pomposity sort of a bit sort of damaged, really. It was and when you think, actually, I don't really want to do that. Sort of to humiliate him in front of the pub is not kind or Jesus-y. I mean, I think I can't remember quite what I said, but I think I tried to be, say what I felt like I needed to say, but do it in a sort of kind and as generous way as I possibly could. Because actually, so often I think sometimes there's people more keen to get a scalp or win an argument than actually to love somebody and to show dignity and care for them, really. And I think we live in a world where it's all about, I think The Apprentice is about getting the deal, clinching the deal, sort of that. And actually, I think so often it's most people's faith journeys. I know for mine, there's a little link here, a little conversation here, and actually I think, well, who led me to Jesus? Well, actually, over the years, probably lots of people have been influential in a chunk of the journey, and I wouldn't have got to where I am, which is still got a long way to go, without lots of different people. And people often say, I've not led anyone to Christ. And you think, well, maybe that's true in the sense you've not been there at the final moment, but actually I think there's a lot of people that have been moved closer to Christ because of you. And actually, ultimately, even if you've done something amazing, people still have free will and can do what, so it's just sometimes Jesus doesn't actually call us to be successful but faithful. And I think there is something about that, just living that life of, I suppose what you were saying really earlier, is that life of faithfulness that really matters. So just last little thought I was having about that whole being kind thing, was about actually not seeing people as projects. You know how sometimes people can sometimes, sort of, I'm only really talking to you because I want to convert you. You're not actually my friend. I don't really care about you. I'm just interested in you because I want you to say a prayer or come along to a church thing or whatever, rather than saying, actually, I love you, you're my mate. If you become a Christian, I'll be delighted. But if you don't become a Christian, we'll still be mates. And that's going, and actually that it's not that our friendship is not dependent on whether or not you do or don't become a Christian. Obviously, if you do, I'd be delighted because I think Jesus is amazing. But in one sense, that's not the deal breaker. But we're friends because we're friends. I think that's.
And one of my biggest challenges is what Jesus said about being the most important commandments. So, okay, you could say, love God with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your might. That's obvious. That's going to be a given. But he doesn't stop there. He was only asked what was the most important commandment, but he didn't stop, did he?
Yeah.
He then went on and said, and the second one is to love your neighbour as you love yourself. And you go, okay. Who's my neighbour? Everybody.
Yeah.
It's not just the neighbour you like on the left-hand side, and it's not just the one on the right-hand side. It's as you go out into the street, as you walk past people, they're all
your neighbour. Yeah.
You're supposed to love all of them. And that stops you, I think, looking at people as projects, because you're going, I'm very challenged by, I meet some people and I go, oh Lord, I find it really difficult to love that one. I know you do. I know I should, but I'm finding it really tough.
Yeah.
Because their character doesn't warm me
Yeah.
up, and probably vice versa. We
Yeah.
probably are a bit friction, and I find that is a big challenge, and I think it's supposed to be. You know, I think we're supposed to keep going, and as you say, we're in progress. You know, work in progress, and it won't finish until we go to glory. And yeah, it's that difficulty of loving everybody and not looking at them as a project and going, I brought somebody to Jesus. Yay, aren't I wonderful? No, you're not. Because all you did was you said some words and Jesus
Yeah.
did the rest. Holy Spirit brings them to Jesus.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's believing that we're just a channel. You know, I like one of those sort of great pictures. I think it might have been my former intern Sam who said it. You know, actually, it's a bit like the donkey carrying Jesus into the city. You know, the donkey kind of went home and bragged to his mum that everybody was clapping him, as like completely oblivious to the fact it was the bloke he was carrying. And I think actually that's probably how I'd almost like to come into land on this section on evangelism. Really, is actually it's all about Jesus. It's all about Him working through us, and maybe we get to do the whole journey from someone from sort of no faith to making a prayer of commitment, or maybe we're just there for a tiny little link in the chain. The question isn't how far or how spectacular or how great a story it is. I suppose the key is about faithfully doing, as Mary said at the start of the Gospel of John, do whatever He tells you. Do whatever He tells you. That, and I suppose that ties in with the wonders as well, isn't it? That actually, actually it's about being obedient in what we say and what we do, and even stepping out in faith that God's gonna show up and do something. That idea that, I don't know, I'm just a vessel. I'm just going to do what I can to make Jesus known and to live it out, speak it out and pray it out, and just trust God that He is faithful and that He's going to do whatever God will do in a world for people He loves and wants to come to know Him. I suppose that's what I'm coming to land with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Martin, so much. That's been great to chat to you. And